The first time I saw her, she was sweeping brass off the firing line with a push broom, and the new range master sergeant was yelling at her about the rhythm of her sweep. His name was Knox, Master Sergeant Knox, 3 rockers and a diamond, 22 years in, and he ran the coal range like a man who had decided early that respect went one direction only. I had been a gunnery sergeant on that range for 9 years. I knew every bay, every berm, every wind shift off the dry lake at 1600. I did not know her. She had been assigned to the range crew 2 weeks earlier, a quiet woman in faded khakis and clean boots, mid-30s, hair pulled back tight, and the paperwork said she was a civilian contractor on a 1-year detail. Maintenance, brass, targets, cleaning. Knox called her the range cleaner the first time he met her, and the word stuck because he made it stick. He said it loud enough on the line for the shooters to hear, and after that she was the range cleaner to every recruit who came through Block 9. Sweep with the wind, not against it, Knox was saying that morning. You're scattering casings into lane 4, I told you yesterday, I told you the day before. She didn't answer. She turned the broom, walked 4 paces back and started the row again with the wind. She did it without looking at him. That was the thing I noticed first. Most people, when a master sergeant gets in their face on a live range, they flinch. They show something. She did not show anything. Her face was the same face you'd see at a bus stop. Knox watched her for a moment, decided the silence was insubordination, and stepped closer. He was a big man, he used his height. When I speak to you, you answer me. Yes, Master Sergeant, she said, flat, no edge, no softness either. He stood there another second, looking for something to push against, and found nothing and walked away. I watched her finish the lane. She did not change her pace. She did not look up at the firing positions, where a row of young Marines were trying not to laugh into their cheek welds. That was Monday. By Wednesday the recruits had picked it up. They called her ma'am to her face because the range rules were the range rules, and they called her the cleaner everywhere else. One of them, a tall kid from Ohio, asked her on Tuesday afternoon if she'd ever fired a rifle. He said it with a grin. She said yes once, a long time ago. He laughed and told his buddies, and the joke ran for 3 days. Her face red like a flat stone in a creek bed, completely unreadable. I should have shut it down. I owe her that admission. I did not shut it down. I told myself it was Knox's range to set the tone on, and I told myself she could handle her own water. Both things were true and both were excuses. The truth was that I had looked at her the first day and decided what she was, the same as Knox had. I just had the manners not to say it out loud. On Thursday, a sandstorm came up off the dry lake and shut the line at 1400. We pulled the recruits back to the bunkhouse and tarped the targets. She walked the line alone, picking up scattered brass with a magnet sled, head down against the wind, the bandana across her face stained dark with the grit. Knox watched her from the tower with his arms crossed. She doesn't talk, he said when I came up. 2 weeks, I've gotten 3 words out of her. Maybe she's quiet. Quiet doesn't bother me, slow bothers me. I've been asking the contracting office to swap her for someone who can move. I looked down at her. She was moving the sled in a steady, methodical pattern, sweep lift empty, and she had cleared more brass in 20 minutes than most cleaners would have managed in an hour. I almost said so. I didn't. Friday morning at 09:20, a black Suburban came up the access road from the south gate, faster than the speed limit, dust boiling off the back tires, and pulled up in front of the range office. 2 men in dark suits got out, then a 4-star general in service dress blues, and a colonel I half recognized from a joint exercise the year before. Knox was at the tower window when they arrived. I heard him say the word "what" under his breath. The general was a wiry man in his 60s, white hair cropped close, 3 rows of ribbons across his chest, including a small blue square at the top that I did not have to look twice at. He came straight across the gravel to the range office, and he did not stop at the desk. He walked past the corporal at the counter, past the duty board, and out the back door onto the line. She was at Bay 6, changing the cardboard on a no-shoot silhouette. She had the staple gun in her right hand. She looked up. She saw him. She set the staple gun down on the bench very carefully and came to attention. He stopped 6 feet from her, looked at her a long moment. Then he saluted. He held the salute. She returned it, also held. Neither of them spoke for what felt like a long time on a windy range, with 20 recruits watching from the bunkhouse porch and Knox at the tower window with his mouth half open. The general dropped the salute first. "Chief," he said. That was the word he used, chief. "Sir, you're hard to find." "I asked to be, sir." "I know." The secretary signed off. I'm not here to pull you back. He looked past her at the line, at the bays, at the target snapping in the dry wind. I'm here because we have a problem in the kill house at Block 9 South, and I need a set of eyes on it that I trust. 40 minutes of your time. You can keep your khakis. Yes, sir. He turned then finally and looked at the tower. His eyes went to Knox, and Knox actually took a small step back from the window. The general did not say anything, he just looked. Then he turned back to her, said something quiet I could not hear, and walked toward the south pit with the colonel beside him. She followed at a respectful 3 paces. I followed too, so did Knox after a moment. The South Pit kill house was a 1-story breaching simulator built 2 summers earlier. Concrete walls, plywood interior, 3 rooms and a hallway, with rubber mannequins on swing arms and a pop-up no-shoot in the back corner that had been giving the Force Recon students trouble for months. The training command had brought in 2 contracted Tier 1 instructors that spring to time the course. The better of the 2 had run it cold in 5 minutes and 40 seconds, and that time was written on the chalkboard in the equipment room with a circle around it. The students were averaging 8. Nobody had broken 5. The general stopped at the entry door and turned to her. Cold run, live, standard load. We'll watch from the catwalk. What's the no-shoot configuration, sir? 2 adults, 1 child silhouette, random tree. Weapon, sir. Whatever's in the rack. She walked to the equipment rack at the side of the entry. There was a short M4 carbine there, an EOTech sight, a single magazine in the well, and a sling. She picked it up. She did a function check the way you watch a violinist tune a violin without thinking about it, the hands knowing the work the way the hands know breathing. Press check, brass in the chamber, palm to the dust cover, optic on, optic off. 2 seconds, maybe 3. She slung the rifle, slapped the magazine, racked the bolt, and walked to the entry door. Ready when you call it, sir. The general looked at the colonel. The colonel started a stopwatch. Go. She breached. I cannot tell you exactly what happened inside that kill house, because the catwalk view does not catch everything. I can tell you what I saw and heard. The door went in clean, no hesitation, no second tap. 3 2-round bursts in the first room, spaced like a metronome, and the soft slap of the no-shoot register chiming, meaning she had cleared the target tree without hitting the child's silhouette tucked in the back corner. Her boots crossed the hallway, 4 steps and a pivot, and the second room went down in 4 bursts with a pause in the middle that I later understood was her clearing the dead angle behind the false wall that had eaten recon kids all spring. The third room and the pop-up no-shoot that had given recon nightmares for months registered green on the panel beside the catwalk. She had identified it and bypassed it before her front sight crossed it. The colonel beside me made a small sound in his throat, the kind of sound a man makes when he is trying not to whistle. 4 minutes and 11 seconds, cold, on a rifle she had picked up off a rack she did not own, on a course she had never walked. The colonel stopped the watch and stared at it. She came back out the entry door with the rifle slung muzzle down, dropped the magazine into her cargo pocket, locked the bolt back, and laid the carbine on the bench. She came to attention in front of the general. Pop-up gave you trouble, he asked. It opens half a beat before the door clears the frame, sir. I'd recommend retiming it to the door, not the trigger plate. The students are reading the floor. Noted, he looked at the colonel. Write that up. Yes, sir. The general did not look at Knox. He did not look at me. He looked at her for a moment longer, and then he said the thing I have been trying to put down on paper for years and could never get right. Chief, the work you did at Aleppo Gate in 17 saved a Marine reconnaissance team and a State Department detail, and you have never been allowed to hear it said out loud. I am saying it out loud now, in front of the men running this range, because I came up here to say it, and because you have earned every word. Stone Cipher on the air, on the record, with my voice behind it. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Are we clear? Yes, sir. He nodded. He turned to leave. He took 2 steps and then he stopped and turned back. One more thing, the civilian detail was your choice and I respect it. But if any man on this range ever again makes you sweep brass while he watches from a tower, I will hear about it within the hour, and I will come back, and I will not be in a good mood. Are we clear, Master Sergeant Knox? It was not a question. Knox had come down off the tower at some point during the run. He was standing 12 feet away, hat in his hand, face the color of wet cement. Yes, sir. Look at her when you answer. Knox turned, he looked at her. His mouth worked for a second before any sound came out. Yes, sir, clear, sir. The general nodded once, walked back to his Suburban with the colonel, and was gone before the dust had settled on the access road. For a long minute nobody on the range moved. The recruits were lined along the bunkhouse porch railing like they had been freeze-framed there, every face turned the same direction. The two Tier 1 instructors who had been timing students all spring were standing at the south pit gate with their mouths open. Knox stood where the general had left him, hat still in his hand, the brim crushed a little in his fist where he had been gripping it without knowing. Then Knox did something I have thought about for a long time since. He set his hat down on the bench beside the rifle she had just laid there. He squared the brim against the edge of the bench, almost gently, the way a man sets down a thing he is afraid to drop. He walked the 12 feet to where she was standing. He came to attention. His boots came together hard enough that I heard the heels strike on the concrete, and he saluted. She held his eye, she returned it. She held the salute as long as he held his, which was a long time, long enough that one of the Tier 1 instructors at the South Pit gate quietly came to attention himself. Then the other, then every man on that line who was wearing a cover put a hand to it. "Master Sergeant," she said when he dropped it, at ease. "Chief, ma'am, I was out of line. For 2 weeks I was out of line. I'm asking you to accept my apology." "Accepted. I'd like to formally request that you not file a complaint." "I wasn't going to." He took a breath, he nodded. He picked his hat up off the bench, put it on, squared it, and walked off the line toward the range office without looking at any of us. He did not come back out for the rest of the day. She picked up her staple gun and went back to changing cardboard on the no-shoot silhouette at Bay 6. The staple gun clicked 4 times on the upper edge. There was no shake in her hands. There had never been a shake in her hands on any day that I had ever seen. I walked over to her after a while. The recruits were back in the bunkhouse pretending they hadn't seen anything. The Tier 1 instructors had drifted off toward the South Pit to inspect the pop-up, the way professionals look at the work of a better professional. "Chief," I said, the word felt strange in my mouth, it also felt correct. "Gunny, I owe you the same apology he owes you. I watched him talk to you like that for 2 weeks. I let it stand, that's on me." She finished a row of staples before she answered. "You didn't say any of the words he said." "I let him say them." She set the staple gun down, she looked at me level. "Gunny, the day I took this detail I asked the assignment officer for the quietest range in the country. He sent me here. I wanted brass and cardboard and wind. I did not want anyone to know who I was, and I did not want anyone to treat me like anything other than what I appeared to be. For 2 weeks I had exactly what I asked for. That is not a thing you owe me an apology for." "I owe you one anyway." She thought about that, then she nodded once, accepted. We stood there for another moment. I wanted to ask her about Aleppo Gate. I wanted to ask her what the work had been and how a single operator's call sign got pulled out of a classified file by a 4-star general on a Friday morning at a sleepy desert range. I did not ask. The general had said the words he came to say on the record on the air with his voice behind it, and that was the part she was allowed. The rest was hers to keep. "Bay 6 needs new cardboard on the no-shoot," she said, "and the wind is dropping. I can finish the line before the afternoon relays come up." "You want a hand?" "I'd take one." I worked the line with her until the sun was low and the dry lake was throwing pink off its bed. We did not talk much. We worked. She moved with the same economy she had moved with on Monday, sweep lift empty, staple pull staple, only now I was watching it with eyes that knew what I was looking at, and the difference between what I had seen and what was actually in front of me made my chest hurt in a quiet way. I had been a senior NCO for 31 years. I had never once, in all that time, looked at the person sweeping the brass and asked myself who they used to be before they picked up the broom. She stayed at Cole Range for the rest of her year. Knox did not speak a sharp word to her again. He gave her a wide berth, and when range business required them to talk, he addressed her as chief, and he stood a little straighter when he did it. The recruits stopped calling her the cleaner inside of a day. By the second month, the Force Recon students were asking quietly if she would walk a kill house with them. Sometimes she did. She walked it without a rifle, talking softly to the lead breacher about door angles and where the eye drifts under load. The pop-up got retime to the door per her recommendation. 2 students broke 5 before Christmas, neither broke 4. When her year was up, she did not stay for a ceremony. She turned in her keys to the contracting office, signed her clearance form, and drove off the post in a tan pickup with a magnet sled in the bed. She left the staple gun on the bench at Bay 6, neatly squared, with a fresh roll of staples beside it. I kept the brass casing from the last round she fired in the kill house that Friday. I picked it up off the concrete after the general had gone and the colonel had gone and the recruits had been called back inside, and I put it in my breast pocket, and I carried it home that night and set it on the windowsill above my kitchen sink. It is still there. It is bright on the rim from where the extractor caught it and dull on the base from where the firing pin struck it, a small cylinder of brass no longer than my thumbnail, and it does not say anything to anyone but me, and what it says to me is this. I once watched a master sergeant with 22 years on him take off his hat, walk 12 feet across a hot range, and salute a woman he had been calling the range cleaner for 2 weeks, because a 4-star general had said her name out loud. And the part I have to live with, every time the evening light catches that casing on the windowsill, is that the general did not change what she was. She had been what she was the whole time, from the first morning with the push broom to the last afternoon with the staple gun. The general only changed what we were allowed to see.